Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Escamilla. I'm going to work on questions 1 through 4 for your homework that is due this coming Friday, October 20th. And keep in mind that the homework that we have is practice to get ready for our curriculum benchmark assessment that's coming up on November the 13th. And so it's really important that you guys really do your best on your homework. Take your time. Maybe have a grown-up or a brother or a sister or somebody check over your work before you turn it in to make sure that you have done your best job. So let's look at question number 1. On question number 1, it's the Learning Standard 4.2a. And I know that 4.2a tells me that we are required to know that if you have a number, so for example, let's say you have 135, okay, and 13 hundredths. 4.2a tells us that any place value position on the left is always going to be 10 times larger than the position to its right. Okay. It also tells us that any place value position on the right is always 1/10 of the position to its left. So for example, if we were just thinking about a place value chart, and I have my hundreds place, my tens place, and my ones place, well, the hundreds place is going to be 10 times larger than my tens place. And this tens place is going to be 10 times larger than the ones place. And this ones place is going to be 10 times larger than the tenths place, and so on and so forth. I also know that if we go the other way around, the place value positions on the right are always going to be smaller than the place value positions to the left. So the tens place is worth 1/10 of the hundreds place. The ones place is 1/10 of the tens place. The tenths place is 1/10 of the ones place. So make sure that when you're working on number 1, you're thinking about that. Okay, number 2 is standard 4.2b, which just says that we need to be able to read and write numbers in expanded notation and to know the values of numbers. So if I were to have, for example, the decimal 3 and 45 hundredths, or let's say 13 and 45 hundredths, I need to be able to write that in expanded notation. So this would read 13 and 45 hundredths, and I know I'm going to start on the very left-hand side. That 1 is in the tens place, and I have one of them, so I would write that I have 1 times 10. That means I have 1 in the tens place, or 1/10. Plus, I look at my next digit. It's a 3, and it's in the ones place, and there's 3 of them. So I would write that I have 3 times 1, and that means the same thing as having 3 ones. Plus, then I go to my next digit. The 4 is in the tenths place. There's 4 of them. So I would say that I have 4 times 1/10. Or you would say that you have 4 tenths. Plus a 5 in the hundredths place. There's 5 of them. So I would say that I have 5 times 1/100th. Or 5 hundredths. So think about that language and expanded notation when you're thinking about when you're working on number 2. Number 3, 4.2c, is putting numbers in order from greatest to least or least to greatest. And I know last week in the videos I showed y'all that we do this by lining up our digits. So if I were to have, for example, the number 45,315, and I had 45,513, and let's say I had 43,500 and let's see, 4. The way I would order these would be to look, starting at the left-hand side in the largest place value position, go digit by digit comparing each number. So I notice when I first I'm going to compare the 10,000s place, All the digits are the same, so I can't really make a comparison there yet. But when I go over to the thousands place, I notice I have a 5, and a 3. The 3 is the smallest out of all those, so that tells me immediately that this is going to be my least number or my smallest number. Okay, so I'm done with that one. Then, since these two both have a value of a 5 in the thousands place, I don't really know which one's greater or less than yet. I have to move on to the hundredths place. When I move on to the hundredths place, I notice that this one's a 3 and this one's a 5. The 5 is greater than the 3. So that tells me already that this number is going to be our greatest number. Okay, done with that one. Which tells me if this is the greatest number and this is our least, this is going to be our number that falls in the middle. So if I were to order these from least to greatest, I would say that 43,514, this number right here is our least. The middle number would be 45,315. And the greatest number would be 45,513. Okay, so when you're comparing these numbers in this chart, make sure that you are comparing digit by digit and before you make your final comparisons. Okay, on the last problem, I noticed that it says the word round, and it says to round to the nearest 10,000s place. So again, I know in last week's video, I showed y'all our strategy that we've been using for rounding. So if I were to, so basically on this problem, you're going to have to round all 4 of these answer choices until you get the answer choice that gives you, that rounds to 670,000 when you round to the nearest 10,000s place. So it's going to take a lot of work on your part. You're going to need to round all 4 answer choices to the nearest 10,000s place and then see which one rounds to 670,000. So if we're rounding, so for example, if I gave you 136,412 and we wanted to round to the nearest 10,000s place, then our strategy is to underline the 10,000s place. In this number, it would be the 3. Then you look next door to the right, and that next door neighbor to the right, directly one place value position to the right, is the bossy neighbor. If that bossy neighbor is a 5 or more, it tells the underlined digit to score. Okay, score, like score a point. So since that 6 is 5 or more, it tells 3 to score a point. If 3 scores a point, it becomes 4. Okay, so the 1 that's it before the 3 stays the same. The 3 scores a point. So if you add 1 to 3, it becomes 4. And then he's the bossy neighbor. And because he's bossy, he gets punished and turned to a 0. And then his other 3 friends, since they hang out with him, they kind of get a bad reputation of being bad like the bossy neighbor. So they end up having to turn into 0s as well. Now, that's a situation in which the bossy neighbor is a 5 or more. However, let's change our number. If that bossy neighbor is a 4 or less, it tells the underlined digit in the 10,000s place to rest. So since that's a 4, that's 4 or less. It tells 3, hey, rest, which means not to change at all. So that means the 1 would stay the same, the 3 is resting and staying the same, and the bossy neighbor and all his friends have to become 0s. And it would round to 130,000. So use that strategy as you're rounding all the answer choices on question number 4. All right, good luck. Work hard.